Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a story about a car so luxurious, so overbuilt, and so confidently American that it made even the president's carriage look like a rental buggy from a bad western. It was crafted when horses still outnumbered highways, aluminum was practically a space-age material, and air suspension meant something your butler did when you were late with your brandy. We're talking about the 1916 Pierce Arrow Model 38 C4 5-passenger touring, the car that didn't just whisper prestige. It shouted it with the muffled roar of 414 cubic inches. Before we rev the T-Head 6 and hit the open road, do us a favor. Subscribe to Cool Ideas, where we serve up the boldest, weirdest, and most breathtaking machines ever to grace the pavement, pasture, or presidential parade. Let's rewind to 1916. America was still neutral in the Great War, silent films were the Marvel movies of their day, and the Pierce Arrow Motor Car Company of Buffalo, New York was already a rolling symbol of elite status. These weren't just cars, they were statements. Presidents from Taft to FDR rode in Pierces. Royalty admired them, and millionaires quietly elbowed each other trying to be the first on their street to own one, ideally parked next to a yacht. At the time, Pierce was guided by engineer David Ferguson, a man who thought compromise was a dirty word. But in 1916, Pierce floated on the stock market, and like many great tales, corporate meddling followed. Designers left, managers reshuffled, and yet, miraculously, the 4th series emerged as a pinnacle of Pierce engineering. The Model 38 C4 was the most affordable 6-cylinder Pierce Arrow on offer in 1916, but don't be fooled, it was still a platinum-plated ticket to the upper crust. The naming convention? Delightfully bureaucratic. 38 referred to the rated tax horsepower, 38 horsepower at 2,000 revolutions per minute, but in real-world terms it made around 72 brake horsepower at 2,500 revolutions per minute. The C marked it as the smallest of the 6s, and 4 indicated its place in the 4th series. That year, only 1,647 units were built. Today, you'd be lucky to find one parked between 2 Duesenbergs at Pebble Beach. Records suggest just 14 known survivors of the 38 C4 touring variant, and one of them still shows the original engine, chassis, and body stamping in place. That's like finding a century-old Rolls still wearing its original top hat and cufflinks. Underneath that stately touring body sat a massive 414 cubic inch inline-6 T-head engine with dual ignition, 2 spark plugs per cylinder. Because why not? It sipped fuel through a single updraft carburetor and burbled with the promise of smooth, confident power. At a time when most cars were lucky to achieve motion, the Pierce offered prestige and performance. A 4-speed manual gearbox sent power to the rear wheels, and suspension was handled by a combination of leaf springs and the very cutting-edge Westinghouse air spring system at the front. These weren't just marketing gimmicks. One surviving 38 C4 was later upgraded with Liebau's vacuum air springs from 1919 to soften the ride even more. Rear suspension used semi-elliptic leaf springs, while braking came courtesy of mechanical drums on the rear only. Front brakes? Not until the Jazz Age, friend. Now, the construction. This is where it gets nerdy in the best way. The body was made from 1/8-inch thick cast aluminium panels supplied by none other than the Aluminum Company of America. These were cold riveted together to form a lightweight yet incredibly strong structure, a marvel for the era. Think of it as early Detroit aerospace. Aluminium was rare and expensive, but Pierce said, "To heck with it," and built a car that was decades ahead of its time. Each engine was tested for thousands of miles. The 38 C4 rode on a 134-inch wheelbase, that's 3,400 millimeters, and it weighed in at a healthy 4,300 pounds, 1,950 kilograms. This was a car meant for cross-country comfort, not quarter-mile sprints. Top speed? Somewhere between 50 and 60 miles per hour, which in 1916 felt like riding a cannonball on rails. Fuel economy? Let's just say it was measured in gallons per smile, around 8 to 10 miles per gallon, which was perfectly normal for a luxurious barge the size of a midtown apartment. Inside, you got real leather seating for 5. Not the pretend leather from Bob's basement recliner, but the thick, creaky, smells-like-money kind. 2 front seats with a center walk-through, side curtains, tilting windshield, and side-mounted spares made for a surprisingly practical yet classy affair. Wheels were wood-spoked artillery-style with beaded-edge tires. And yes, there was a Boyce motor meter on the radiator cap to let you know when your engine was hotter than your collar after Sunday service. The design also featured patented fender-mounted headlights, a Pierce Arrow hallmark from 1914, courtesy of designer Herbert Dawley. Buyers could choose between these and traditional headlamps, but if you were buying a Pierce and opted for the boring lights, you were probably the kind of person who thought jazz was too exciting. Everything on this car whispered thoughtful engineering. The dash, brass trimmed with original lights powered directly by the engine. The steering wheel, hand-shaped wood. There are even records of period canvas seat covers and polished aluminium footplates. In terms of ride quality, Pierce Arrow didn't aim for sporty, they aimed for gliding. The air suspension, deep leather seats, and torque-rich engine combined to make this one of the smoothest rides of its generation. And unlike some early prestige brands that coasted on looks, Pierce had real mechanical credibility. This wasn't a car that broke down when the weather got dramatic. This was a car that expected you to take it from New York to California, in formal wear with a bottle of bootlegged whiskey under the seat. The open touring body was practical and grand, with a folding canvas roof that resembled a gentleman's collapsible top hat. Details mattered. The toolboxes were built into the running boards, the doors clicked shut with the weight of a bank vault, and the paint, often a deep carmine red or glossy black, was hand-applied in layers thick enough to make Bob pass out from the labor costs alone. Owners could specify the leather color and trim details, and while chrome was scarce, brass and nickel accents glimmered in the sunlight like a good tax return. Pierce Arrow wasn't trying to be everyone's car maker, they were aiming for the top shelf. Their target market included industrialists, statesmen, and folks who thought weekend in the Adirondacks meant taking 2 chauffeurs and 3 hunting dogs. And they succeeded. This was the chosen ride for titans of finance and governors on the go. If you rolled up to a country club in a Pierce, the valet offered you his job. If you pulled into a small town, the mayor came out to tip his hat and probably asked for a ride. Now let's talk Turkey, or rather, Treasury. When it rolled out in 1916, the base price of a 4-passenger Model 38 touring body was around $4,300. In today's money, that's roughly $120,000. By comparison, the humble Ford Model T of the same year cost just $360. Today, the few surviving examples of the Model 38 C4 are among the most coveted of brass-era royalty. The most expensive auction result on record? A matching numbers car sold at Gooding & Co.'s Amelia Island sale in 2011 for $181,500. R.M. Sotheby's Hershey offered another unrestored 5-passenger version in 2017 that brought in $154,000. Even lesser-known sales hover above $100,000, making the 38 C4 a serious player in Concours circles. These aren't just cars, they're museum-grade time capsules. But beyond the money, there are the stories. One Model 38 served as a livery taxi in Providence, Rhode Island, throughout the 1930s, even running service calls well into its second decade. It was stashed away during World War II, only to be rediscovered in the 1960s and lovingly restored by Manny Souza in the 1980s. Today it's still touring, a mechanical Methuselah reminding us that good engineering and good stories never die. Thanks to everyone who supports the Cool Ideas channel, especially our generous sponsors, aka you lovely subscribers who clicked that join button. May your engines run smooth, your suspensions never squeak, and your neighbors never park their hoverboards in your flower beds.